Hello and welcome to the All About Ability podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Kyle Financial and Strathclyde House Buyers. Kyle Financial are proud supporters of local communities and specialise in helping you protect what matters most. For your family, your lifestyle and even your income, they have it covered. Kyle Financial are now offering free wills, regardless of whether or not you need any other service. Go check them out on their website, www.kyle-financial.co.uk, or check them out on Facebook, Twitter or even Instagram. Strathclyde House Buyers are a local property solutions company who specialise in helping people sell their property quickly with no fees. If you or anyone you know are looking for a fast, stress-free sale, check them out on their website, www.strathclydehousebuyers.com, on Facebook or on Instagram. We should stay there with man. I can
sit down a bit.
I'm taller than you. People must know.
I'll sit up here for the start.
Well, you're both definitely taller than me.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's true.
I mean, see, to be fair, I have no idea what height I am, so fuck knows. Like, people are like, how do you know how tall you are? I'm like, I have no idea, mate. How would it, like, because they tried to measure me one time when I was lying down.
Aye.
My knees come up.
Oh,
So it's not really an accurate, it's not an accurate,
There must be laser pointers or something that can do it.
because
They're just doing this.
You
I
feel
think
like-
these are that high, then
laser
this part's that hard.
it's because,
just measure. I'm not. I was right. Aye.
see, what's interesting is when I was watching your podcast, right, I've not even done an intro of that, right?
Aye.
But I've noticed that I don't actually do intros, I just kind of start talking. But then I was watching you and I'm like, these guys really do like a really professional, like, welcome to Fitz Bean Happnin, what's going on?
Professional fuck.
And I'm like that.
I butcher it every single time. So the podcast is called Fitz Bean Happnin,
Aye.
and then it's a whole play on words where I've got, what's been happening? How you doing? And we've done about 10 episodes. And I never said Fitz Bean Happnin once. I like, hello and welcome to Fitz Bean Happnin. And he was like, Gonny just, and I was like, oh, Beans, how you doing, mate? And he's like, Gonny, just say Fitz Bean Happnin. It's the whole point in the podcast. I was like, right. So we don't plan anything, mate. We just wing it and hope for the best.
That was going to be my first question, like, if you're typically like, Fitz Bean Happnin, but no, it's like, I thought it was one of the most creative names for a podcast that I've seen, man. I was like, that's brilliant.
We need to find out if whoever it is watching. I'm sorry because I don't. We can't mind who you are. I'm sorry, but whoever it was, well done. Because
Beans put something on Twitter and he said, see if me and Fitz had done a podcast, what would we call it? And people put like two fannies talking shit, like just nonsense.
Aye.
And then this guy
one
went,
handsome cunt with a big bobby and a bald guy or something like that.
something like that. Aye, it was really
Cheers,
it really. So somebody put it up, and we never really thought too much about it. And then somebody went, "Fitz Bean Happnin." We're going, that's genuinely tremendous. We need to do a podcast now. So the name sort of came first.
It's interesting because for me, the name came last.
Aye.
I'd already spoke about doing
So
it.
what you're telling me is you never get disabled first, you then done that after you never get the podcast first. You're like, fuck, I need to kneecap myself here.
No, you're right,
So
mate.
that's the order you done it, just to clarify.
See, mate, nobody's ever done that to you before.
I hope nobody said that to you before.
No, but no, you're right. This is all for benefits, mate. I'm absolutely full of shit.
it's
mate.
all a
I'd
ruse.
go to the moon if I fucking kneecap myself.
Probably, aye. You'd be shorter than me, no?
Mate, stop.
But that's the thing, like, there's so many podcasts, and I thought to myself, I need to make this different. How can I make this different? Well, if I put myself in a wheelchair, it'll be so different. so I'll just kneecap myself in that way. I'll just make a fortune out of doing a podcast. That's
Look
it.
at you, you're hanging out with Cy Ferry at the Euros, eh?
Mate. See, no, I don't want to be this guy, right? I don't want to be this guy.
Be the guy.
But Cypher, this class, man, is a pure, like, having like met a few people doing this, right? You're like that. A lot of people are just full of shit, mate. Like, when you meet them, there's so many people that are like so different off the mic than they are on it, and you're like that. What is this? There's been people that come in and they just spend 20 minutes slagging everybody they ever met off, and they come on and be like, "I'm just trying to help people," and it's like,
some people are quite polished, whereas you want people just to come on and talk a load of shit.
I met Cy Ferry once, and it was with Aidan McGeady when I worked round the corner, and I served the pair of them. And they came in. It was actually when they'd done one of the first episodes, and they came in, and I was like, "Oh my god, Aidan McGeady, he was my hero growing up." And I was like, "Look at that wee guy that used to play for Celtic, like the other guy, who is Cy Ferry, obviously, but fucking class, like such a great guy." Just didn't even really. I was kind of like just staring at Aidan McGeady the whole time, like, "You're real," and I was kept trying to touch him and that. I was like, "Oh, here's your drink," pure fucking on him. Aye, and then Cy Ferry's just asking him a questions and like, "Do you want to do a podcast with me?" I'm like, "Mate, I'm trying to graft Aidan McGeady. Leave me alone." But no. He's class, man. Seems like a good guy.
I thought so. He follows me on Twitter. That's about it.
Needs to
I've
come on our
DM'd him
podcast.
about 9 times, dinged me every single time. So
Mate, it took me.
There's that bald guy DMing me again.
It took me a while to get like people were like asking, how did you get in touch with him? I was just fucking grabbing it for months.
Aye, that's what you do.
You have to but there's a way of doing it because too many people are like, they'll just they you know how to message people without being pure in their face about it.
Yeah.
Aye.
And the only reason why it actually happened is because I got on the Go Football radio show.
Aye.
When we qualified for the Euros, I mention this every podcast because I'm trying to fucking get this sport out there, right?
Aye.
But I'm the Wheelchair Football Scotland captain, right?
Oh yeah, aye.
So
That's class.
Which is something that I'm pure trying to push to get Celtic and Rangers involved in
Aye.
that because I want to play in a Celtic Rangers game, man.
Aye,
That'd be
That'd be class, aye.
But actually, the head of the Celtic Foundation is coming on Tuesday.
Is that right?
And I'm hoping to Tony Hamlin.
Aye.
And I'm hoping to just maybe get that over the line. Maybe we'll see.
That's
I'm
brilliant.
going to be pure like that, mate. We need to make this happen. Come on, right? But where was I going with that? Fuck's sake! I was saying that.
Getting folks on podcasts and all that sort of thing, grafting.
So I was like, so for that phone-in, when we qualified, I was saying to them like, oh, I'll get on. Let us get on and talk about the fact that the Wheelchair Football Scotland squad are put buzzing about it and all
Aye.
that. And they were like, as soon as they heard that, they were like, oh, this is good PR, we'll get them on. So,
It's as soon as it's good PR, isn't it?
aye, mate, that's what it is, mate. Like, you realise that it's the first time in my life that I realised actually this wheelchair could be a benefit to me.
Aye, you
Well,
capitalise on
To
it.
be fair, so my pal Alex Woodward is currently just left Manchester this morning. He's running, don't know if you've seen, but he's running from Hampden to Wembley for the Euros to raise money for Finart AFC in Glasgow Green. And
I'm glad you remembered that because I just say some football team every time.
but I've messaged a few people to try and help him get coverage in that. People that would never, ever reply to me are replying to me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say it and jinx it in case it never happens. I'll look like a twat, but there's a pretty big show that I've been like, I sound, we'll look into it kind of thing. And I was like, I can't believe a producer for that show has actually replied to me.
Aye.
And like, we're trying to DM like some guy with 1,000 followers and hopefully he'll come on the podcast. And if you're sorry, mate, patching you. But
I got a
that's what
knockback.
it is.
We got a knockback for Dion Dublin.
Oh, did you?
Raging.
To be fair, I don't really know how much I'd want to interview Dion Dublin.
I'd want to ask him about Hoosies and all that.
But you're
See, no, because that's what you do. You just put the feelers out and
Aye.
see who bites. So I messaged him one night.
It's me that bites. You put it feelers and I bite every time.
Every single time. So I says, Beans, right, who are you trying to get? And he's like, oh, like one of my pals knows somebody that knows somebody. And I says, that's good. He says, who you asked? I says, Dion Dublin and Guys Commendiator, and they've not got back to me.
Thing is, I'm trying to get like people that I'm interested in. I don't want to do a podcast with somebody who
Guys Commendiator would be good.
maybe.
Good penalties.
Anyway, you're doing my nutting already.
Aye.
I'm too hungover for this push, man. I can't have you.
This is our first in-person podcast.
Well, I'm old.
should
I suppose if you're going to do it, see the thing is, but what I've noticed is, see after I did come on, like, there's so many cunts that didn't get back to me. That
See that by the way, Sai.
Mate, no, I'm just saying. The day after they came
I
out,
told my name is Simon. Not once has he called me Si, but it's Sai Ferry or Si.
mate, I didn't even know. I wasn't sure if you were doing it all for and facts and didn't want your real name out there and all that. I didn't. By the way, I watched that podcast we used in here, and I was like, take the fucking mask off, man. Come on, man.
I felt so bad for him and Paul and all, but honestly, man, he was sitting there for fucking about an hour and a half in total with that mask on, and at the end of it, I never even thought to ask him if he wanted to stop for a break at any point. And see when he took the mask off, he actually looked as if he'd just been doing like a David Blaine stunt. Like, he was actual knackered. He was like, I was like, oh mate, are you alright? We could have stopped, you know.
I think this would be the one. I think he needs to just do a face reveal.
Nah, I don't think he'll ever do it. He spoke about it at the end. He was like, it's too far gone, which I do agree with.
If Kane can do it, he can do it.
King can do it.
That's a wrestling.
I've got your references.
People are going to be like, who the hell is he talking about?
Kane, mate.
Fitzy is not taller than me. I'd like to look directly in the camera and say Fitzy is not taller than me. I'm taller than him. We can stand up right now and prove it if you want.
That is small.
I'll just sit down, but you can do that.
I know he looks like the big show, but he's a wee boy. So
At least I'm not the smallest. I'll take that.
fucking hell. There we go.
That's wee guy energy.
I do, mate. I'm hungover. Of
I'm
course,
taller than you.
I know I am.
You're all emotional.
I'm emotional.
They are emotional.
23 episodes. 23 and a half episodes we've done.
He's like, oh, Fitzy, I'm all I've got to get my wee latte this morning. I was like, that's fine, son, don't you worry.
But you've only actually recently met for the first time, like
Aye,
not too long ago.
but they're like,
2 weeks ago or
it's
something.
but it's weird to see like the whole pandemic thing. I feel like I've made friends that I don't not that I don't have to meet, but we're friends by virtue of like all that's went on. So it's weird. It's not like Twitter folks that you've known for ages. It's like your pals, but it just has happened in that time.
Yeah.
It's probably worth saying he had messaged me a few times before the pandemic saying, we're all got Malone, do you want to come? And I was like, nah.
Right, I'm going to jump in because he's conflated information.
Couple of stories.
He's talking shit.
See the wee guy energy in all this?
We had a couple of Twitter people that we were just pally with, so we created a group chat before the pandemic, and in like the September or something, Fitzy was in it. And like Fitzy was saying, there's people that we spoke to throughout the pandemic off of Twitter and all that, and I think that's like the good thing with Twitter. And it sounds, see people that aren't on Twitter, they don't get it. It sounds mental saying you've got pals on Twitter because like I bolt, but you interact with these people all day, every day for the last year and a half, more than ever. And
on shared interests.
Aye. But we did have a group chat before it, and I met people before it, like Liam King and Robin and all them. But
we need to stop shouting out Liam King.
No, we don't.
Every fucking podcast.
Aye, but I'm gonna get a Liam King tattoo. But Fitzy never made it to the pub that night, but we all met before it. But I think that's why you were probably like, I'm gonna kiss your arse here for a second, right? This is the one time I'll ever do it, but it genuinely has been a great mate. Like we were talking before we came on about how I've had quite a tough time lately, and not even that, see just in general the pandemic and stuff, like see like him and Liam and Luke and Joe and all them wouldn't have been able to get through like the last year and a half the way I have anyway without that, because it's just even the wee stuff, so even just when you're feeling a bit shite or whatever, and knowing I've hit it with some pish in that group chat, like stuff in there where they have every right to turn around, but I never want to speak to you again. What the fuck are you talking about? Daily, actually. In fact, this morning.
Actually, aye.
But no, it's been great. So I'm not going to let your arse anymore. But he's a good guy. But that's how it started, and then for there we just kind of became pals.
But then I'm like quite a mouthy bastard and like talking, so he's like, and he likes talking, so he's like, "Mum, we'll do a podcast." And we done a few, and the first one we done with Stefan. And it was about 3 years long talking about Scotland, and there was like no jokes in it whatsoever, because it was all dead serious.
To be fair, it was like an emotional one where we were talking about Scotland. It was the day after we qualified, so it was a bit different, but
it was like at the start it was a wee bit polished and a wee bit, and then we done a few more and we were going, I don't even know where this is going, and then Bean said, see, after the new year we'll do it properly, we'll get guests on and we'll just have a laugh at it, and then we just started having a laugh at it, and it's doing quite well,
mate. It's brilliant. Like, see, a lot of the podcasts, I think that everything's kind of in the same, like they're all looking at the same subjects and stuff. Yes. It's all kind of mental health based, and I know that I'm sort of in that same bracket. But I think there's too many people that are like very like try to give out professional advice on things, and you're like, just have a conversation, and hopefully people enjoy it. Do you know what I mean?
And that's what people want. We talked about it in this room many times. We've talked about it many times, and in this room.
It's my first time in this room.
But talking about the difference between UK podcasts and US podcasts, and the ones that are the ones that we all like, whether it is Flagrant 2 or Joe Rogan or whatever. And I know if you say you like Joe Rogan, you're the typical guy now, but like, not to be a hipster, but I'm going to be a hipster. I've been watching Joe Rogan for years, and the reason I have is because it is just chats with people. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson, absolutely love him, but every interview you see with him or anything he does, it's so refined and polished, but all of a sudden he's on Joe Rogan talking about whatever the fuck, like, and
aliens and stuff.
Aye, and
I loved that episode.
It's just a chat, and it's easy to listen to. Do you know what I mean? And
so, see, I think, see, as long as if you don't fact check yourself, so you say to people, listen, don't listen to any of this. It's good chance it's all nonsense. Like, go into it with that. I think too many people kind of are up their own arse, and that was kind of their unique selling point. It was like, we're just going to talk shit. If you want to listen. If you don't. But we'll still be.
Well, that's why it works, because I don't think there's actually, like you said, there's not many podcasts doing that. Like. So the actual, you're playing into that sort of American way of doing it, and people are really taking to it. Like, you see that? Because, I was watching you on, like, before you even started the podcast, I was like, just seeing you on Twitter, and it was always like, it seemed like these guys seem to have like a good bit of party going on. And
it's just abuse.
but see, to be honest, see, for me on Twitter, I went off social media during the pandemic for a while, because I was like, this is just frying my brain a bit. And then when I decided to start the podcast, it was about almost a year now. And so basically, all I've done with Twitter is use it for the podcast. Any tweet you see me tweet it's just all at the pod. I don't tweet
the pod.
I don't tweet any of it, like anything. And then recently, I was like, maybe I should start tweeting more like casual stuff. You know what I mean? Just
opinions in that.
Like just opinions on things and like that. But so. Basically what I'm saying is I'm taking all your ideas, but that's what I'm doing.
That's fine.
and
well, to be fair, mate, I'm taking your idea and kneecap myself to get some clout. So listen, each one, you know.
Aye, look, I'll do it for you.
There's only one person that can handle the wheelchair jokes in here, mate. Right? Just you watch yourself.
Mate, imagine the actual beef we could start if I got into a wheelchair.
By the way, see if this is clipped wrong.
Oh, you'd be so cancelled, mate.
It's just going to be Fitz Happnin Pod.
No, I'll have my own pod, mate. If it gets clipped and I get cancelled for it, I will kneecap myself and I'll be like,
You'll double down.
who's laughing? I will double.
You'll double down. You'll become the heel. Just become the heel and go, right, this is me now.
I love that because that's a wrestling reference, mate. And I'm
Be the heel.
mad at the wrestling, man.
Got to be the heel.
I might be having a wheelchair boxing match with a professional boxer soon. And,
Really?
mate, I'm not. That's not even a joke as well. Like,
mate, what the
This
fuck?
escalated and I'm in.
I had this guy on, right, Enzo McInerney. I think that's who you pronounce his name. I'm not sure, right, but I had him on months ago, and he's a pure sound guy, but he is always talking about having one more.
Some guy but asked you for a fight.
Well, it was actually like, so.
You ask me for a fight every 3 days.
Do you know who Steve Timothy is?
Yes.
Right,
Aye.
so he's having a wheelchair boxing match with Paddy Barnes.
So he is. I've
Right.
seen that.
So they're having the whole event's based on trying to make money for the Irish Wheelchair Association, right? And Conor McGregor donated like 10 grand, and
Aye.
he's going to come to the event apparently. And Tyson Fury was retweeting and all that. And I was like, man, I need to try and get involved in this.
Got to be on that. Aye.
So, like, me and Enzo were still talking a wee bit, and I was like, listen, you've always talked about doing this one more boxing match. What if we had a wheelchair boxing match on this card? And he was like, aye. And then
Did you offer Enzo McInerney a square go?
basically, aye. So what
That's fucking brilliant.
I'm not saying it was a good idea, right?
It was not a good idea.
Because this is
I think I have bad ideas to get the podcast
Aye,
out there,
aye.
man. You're like, I'll go and scrap a
Go
guy.
fight Enzo McInerney.
I'm gonna get knocked out, man, because
Is Enzo, he's not quite a good boxer.
mate, he was a world book. He was
I
a
was
world
gonna say-
champion.
I was
Mate. He
gonna
was
say
a world champion. And
No,
I didn't want to go in two-footed there in case I get it wrong. You go, no, he stays up the bars, but
That's going to be a
No.
tough event, mate. Like,
you're going to get leathered.
I've never even sparred it. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm not trying to be funny here, but how the fuck do you go out of range?
But then, is Enzo ever been in a wheelchair?
Well, that's the thing. I feel like
That's where you've got edge.
wheelchair, because the thing is, wheelchair boxing and regular boxing are different. The distance and all that is all different.
Aye.
And I'm saying that as if I know anything about wheelchair. I don't even know anything about wheelchair boxing. I don't know what I'm talking about. But he's always talking about having one more fight, man, right? And he's always in the gym and that.
You
And
so fuck it. We'll do it as a wheelchair
I'm
fight.
basically.
He's talking about one more fight with his pals. Do you think you'll ever get back into fighting? Do you think you'll do one more fight? He's like, I'm fighting this wee guy in a wheelchair. Fucking no bother.
That's not this one song he was hoping for.
Mate, I done a video on Twitter basically where I just pure went wrestling promo and was like,
Did you,
I mate, he's like, what? So basically, because the headline is Steve-O and Paddy, Steve-O was like for lack of a better way of putting it, he's like the main face of the event. Right?
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to take this thing that Steve was doing and be the heel, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Do you know what I mean? So when Enzo agreed to, he started chatting shit. And, we had a wee back and forth because I said I put a picture out of me doing a boxing thing and was like, "Are you ever going to box again, mate?" And then he was like, "Put it on the Steve-O and Paddy Barnes card and wheelchair or not, you're getting smashed and all that." And I'm sitting there like, "What?"
You're getting
He
smashed.
said that, right? So,
Did I get your wheelchair and Barry or something? What's it?
so then I made a video saying the only mate, oh my god, it's like a minute or something video, and I done about 10 takes it, but we got there because I think while I was doing it, I was like, I don't know if I should be doing this.
Aye.
And then he didn't even acknowledge it for like a week, and I was like, is he racing to me?
You're like, what have I done
Oh
here?
my days.
Watch this video. Man.
For anyone that doesn't know yet, so Steve Timothy and Paddy Barnes are in the wheelchair boxing
you're
match
gonna- I
at
don't
the age of
know.
the Irish Wheelchair Association on September 11th. I seen this, I thought, what a great cause, I'd love to be involved in this somehow. Who can I fight on this card? So I put a challenge out to my good friend Enzo to see if he'd have that one last boxing match that he always talks about. So Enzo's got back to me to say, wheelchair or not, Caden, I don't care, you're getting smashed. And I thought to myself, that's hilarious, because the reality is, if Enzo fights me in a boxing match, the only thing that he's smashing is a canvas. I'm saying that because, yeah, he was a world boxing champion, yes, he beat all these great guys, but that was all in the past. But see right now in the present, whatever, you can say whatever you want, but the way I'm looking at this is we're donating to a great cause, we're making money for a brilliant cause, we're going to expose it as much as we can, donate as much as you can, Irish Wheelchair Association, support it in every way possible, and the added bonus of having the pleasure of putting this old, over-the-hill, retired boxer who thinks he's still got it, finally out of his misery with one last knockout. I would love to be the guy to do that. So I know that everybody wants on this card, there's so many people that have exposed it, but wheelchair or not, whether I'm in a wheelchair or not, Enzo's getting smashed. And I would love to be on it. Let's get it booked, let's get it sorted. And Enzo, your D-Day is coming on September 11th.
Mate, you're no right.
In April I did this, man. I don't know if you've seen it. I did a charity thing for the Celtic Foundation.
Right.
And it was doing 1,000 kilometres over the course of a month. So it's basically a marathon a day for 30 days, which is, I had to do like 40k every day for 30 days.
Fuck's sake.
On like a ski machine and like a row and stuff.
Aye.
So that took me like from like 10 o'clock in the morning till about 7 o'clock at night. And I remember me and Paul were talking about it. And I was like, I want to do something for a good cause and do something for a minute. Because I was doing these workout videos.
Aye.
And people were like that. They were taking to it and they were like, wow, this is amazing. And
Aye.
I was doing like 20k and feeling good in that. And I was like, I think I could probably do this. I could probably do like 1,000k in a month. And Paul was telling me like the what was it, the distance between the two?
One's into John.
I've asked him that like 5 times on different podcasts, mate. You must be getting, and then we calculated that I was like 900 and something, and he was like, "Bro, just do 1,000, man."
Just round it up.
And mate, honestly, see, after like a couple of days, I did like 2 marathons, and my body was on fire and pain, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I think I can do this.
Can I just jump in? See that pain and you thought, what am I doing?
Aye.
See 3 seconds into your fight, right? You're literally going like, why?
Here's the thing.
I could have just hired a social media manager and put my podcast out there and maybe got a bit more clout. Maybe just put a campaign on an episode.
Offered him a game on the Xbox.
Aye, do you want to come round and I don't know, maybe we'll
Xbox.
We'll go fishing. We'll go fishing.
Aye.
See who catches the biggest pike. But no, you want a guy who's an actual trained. Chris Bunger, do you want to come and scrap me? In fact, no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to get battered.
See, the thing is, like you said, I've got no boxing experience. And then you went, I know you were world champion, as if it's none.
Mate, I rate that so much. That is quality.
See, the thing is, right, if fucking Logan Paul can go 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather, I can get through this. So I can.
To be fair, I reckon I could batter Floyd Mayweather.
Nah.
What, in a street fight? He's a wee guy, man.
Mate,
Probably a street. You're a wee guy.
Here's what I'd say.
I reckon I could full scale kick him.
I think in an MMA fight he would be hopeless. But I mean, see, the thing is, people need to realise that he let Logan Paul survive that. It was there's no way that guy could not have beat him if he wanted to.
Can I trigger Beans just on a podcast because it's got a bit funny?
For it.
So Mayweather clocked Logan Paul and he went down.
I've seen
And
this.
the chat is that Mayweather caught him
Right.
and that Mayweather done it to save the fight. Beans has an alternative opinion to that.
Right, you've toned back your language a wee bit. You said that he was knocked out. I'm telling you right now that Floyd Mayweather
Out for a count.
Floyd Mayweather has knocked them out.
This is me going fishing for pike, by the way.
Oh, I'm going to bite. I'm batting. I'm full chunk right now.
We're here.
Floyd Mayweather has not knocked them out for a decade. Floyd Mayweather's hands are brittle as fuck, right?
Aye.
It breaks his hands in sparring all the time. It breaks his fingers and the rest of it. He can't knock him out now unless he was fighting somebody that's 135 pounds or something.
Camera and call him out.
Floyd, you know what the beef is. You and me, wheelchair. Let's do it. But is it September
11th?
9/11, big man. Let's do it. Come on. Floyd Mayweather is no having. He's no one. He's no knocking out a guy that's over £200.
Aye.
2, if he does, and a £200 guy falls on top of him, he's not holding him up.
Aye.
He might have clocked him a wee bit, hit him on the ear, probably stunned him a wee bit, and he's gone into clinch. But
So you're
they
saying
were all in the group chat going, "Oh, he knocked him out." No, he fucking never
Knocked him dead.
well, you're saying
Dead
that.
out,
So
was
basically,
gone.
you're saying his fists are the same as my legs at this point. Is what you're trying to say. Right?
If you want me, aye. If that's
Here's the thing, right? See, because
why am I trying to beef with Floyd Mayweather? What's going on here?
what I like about this is like that's the first wheelchair joke I've made where you were like, that's I can't. I don't know. how to say that.
you bald a wee
You
bit
feel
there.
you
To be
feel
fair,
frozen
I
at that.
have.
But we don't know your leg strength.
Well, that's the
What
thing.
if you've
you know.
got legs like tree trunks?
Well,
I'm
I
beginning to
definitely
think
don't.
there's a
Listen,
lot of
I don't know about you, but I don't judge a book by its cover.
Mate, you walked in here about half an hour ago. This is all a scam. Don't make me expose you.
You know what? Like,
Can't do a 5k before I get here.
I'm hungover.
I
It's
know.
knackered.
Could you imagine if like that was my like you know like old fun facts where like has a mask and all that and people do things like
using the wheelchair as a mask.
What if it was just what if it was all just a gimmick and nobody knew? Because people say that to me all the time. Like I think when people imagine somebody in a wheelchair, they just imagine like Stephen Hawking. How can you move? How can you speak about him? Like, and I'm like, there's so many different variants of disabilities and stuff. Like you don't have a clue what you're talking about. Like, but also that's what the problem is like. Well, it's so like not even like fucking part of the conversation. Stephen, I talked. See everybody that I've spoke to basically right about disability. They've all said. By the way, I never even thought about that, and it shows you how much it's just not even talked about. Even though when everybody talks about minorities and that, I'm being pure serious now because I'm like that. You guys seem to have a lot of clues, so people go listen to this. So I better talk about the disability a bit. But it's like when people say that to me, I'm like, how is this not even part of the conversation? Like, because it's like we've got the biggest minority in the world.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that's actually a fact. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I thought I knew a lot about disability, right? Because obviously I've been in a wheelchair my whole life. I don't know if you know that. Like, I wasn't actually, I know I've been saying I was hit by a bus and all that, but I'm a day one G here, mate. Right? I've been in this chair my whole
See all you frauds.
Exactly. I know what the script is with this, right?
I love that you've been in a wheelchair your whole life, and the one bit of your body that's abled, you want a boxer to fucking punch fuck out of.
I know.
See that one bit that's fucking, I'm gonna let a trained killer punch fuck out it.
Mate, he'll need a wheelchair after the fight, man. That's what I'm saying about it.
You're never alone of this, mate.
See, eventually this will be on the Netflix documentary.
I hope so.
About how Enzo Maccarinelli is in a
Well,
wheelchair.
Exactly, mate. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm team you, mate. It's fine.
Well, the whole point of that, basically, the whole point of the boxing match actually is, to be honest, is I want to do something with wrestling. I want to be like a fucking Paul Heyman type person. Like I've always loved wrestling, right? And I've talked to like my Dallas and all that, and I want to do something. So I'm like using this as like a way of being like, I can do this, man.
You contacted like the ICW, right? He came into
while I was doing the challenge. He came in and we done like a 5K with me, and I was just telling him like I want to do something in this. And we've been talking, so hopefully, like, if there's any guy that can make it happen. Anyway, that's a pure sidetrack. I don't know how the fuck you're on that, but
we always go down rabbit holes,
mate. It's because I'm still trying to put my brain cells back together, man. So
you're telling me, man.
Honestly, I've not drank anything in so long, and I can't believe I had Venoms last night. And I thought I actually had them last night, thinking I'll be fine. Like I just forgot
because it tastes like juice.
Because I hadn't done it so long, I forgot that hangovers are possible.
Yeah,
it's like,
mate, I actually forgot that Venoms existed during the pandemic, and I was on TikTok one day and I seen some lassie making Venom. She made like, you know, everyone makes those big massive like tubs of Bevy. They were making a massive tub of Venom, and I was watching it and I audibly went, oh my god. And I actually was like, Venoms. But just before I forget, see what you're talking about in terms of like conversations about disability. That's why I think it's brilliant, and obviously we've had a laugh in that, and it's brilliant you can do that, but that's about removing that stigma. And you see that happen all the time, and see even the fact that like people be like, oh, you can't say that. It's like, well,
how no,
like exactly.
But then it depends on the person as well. So like I was
actually going to say people joke about you being bald. I know,
no, but it's quite clearly not the same, right? But it's like, so I'm a person.
Talk to us about the struggles you've had in life.
Real struggles, right? So I don't know what your life's like, right? But I need to shave 3 times a week to be bald. So I've got real struggle. So but it's like, so like people don't know me, and then
have you actually just
clap this?
That's easy compared to being bald.
Mate, this has been the weirdest hour of my life, you know that?
It's good though. No, but what
feels like 5 minutes to get by.
So that's the point I mean is it's like, so like Beans don't know me and he can like slag me for being bald. So me as a person, I'm fine with. That's not to say that everybody who is bald, and it's the same with somebody with disability. That's not to say that everybody will be okay with jokes. But you are, therefore we're going to make jokes.
Well,
so you're telling me that if I see somebody in a wheelchair, I can't offer them a square go?
It depends whether or not they're a professional boxer.
Exactly. But well, like there's so many ways to put this right. But see, actually, when I think about it, the reason why I feel like we're still kind of, when it comes to disability, is so we're very much far behind than where we need to be.
Yeah.
Like I'm hoping that like 20 years from now, the conversation we're having is so normal for somebody with disability, because I feel like it's pure seen as this sort of like, it's just seen as this like life-ending thing. Like Stephen, somebody's, if you have a wedding and you get told you're going to have some sort of disability, it's like the most heartbreaking news.
Aye.
Like, oh, here's a broken baby, mate, you know what I mean?
Aye.
Well, see, it's the conversation they have, right? And again, this is where we do, like, no facts, just talk nonsense and somebody can fact check me, but you can do, like, the test to find out if your baby's going to have X, Y, and Z. And I've always went, I don't really care, because if it's my baby, I love the baby, that's it. And then if there's something extra I need to do, or something less I need to do, or more I need to do, well, I love my baby. And it's the same, it's like somebody with a disability, which can be any different raft of things.
But if your baby comes out and refuses to support their national team at a major
I was on
tournament,
a really good point there, and you've taken my
Sorry.
floor. but also I'd put them back in. But it's like, it's the same with like disability. It's like you need to do something about different, like with your pal or whatever. Fuck up, just get on with it. Do you know what I mean? That's my way of thinking. It's like everybody's different for every different reason. So if somebody's got a disability and you need to do something differently, or you need, but who gives a fuck?
Well,
and also you get more jokes with your pals.
Exactly, mate. Well, that's what I have so much different pattern I can use compared to everybody else.
Aye.
This is my own zone, which is great.
Aye.
Because everybody and I'm always using the same palette everywhere. You can see that. Except, I mean, you two are alright, but like, see the actual podcast. You're watching them. And you're like, I've heard this guy talk about the same thing the last 10 podcasts he's done. Do you know what I mean? It's like pure
Glasgow Life.
Not naming names, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know you're right, but it's a unique selling point.
Aye, but see, I think the best way, because I think people always think when I'm talking about this, what is your point here?
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to do? And I think there's something that you need to understand is my thing with it is the disability isn't the problem, because I can't change if I'm born in a wheelchair.
Aye.
The issue is that we are now, like, there was a time where people thought black people should be slaves and women should stay in the kitchen. And that's not the way things are anymore. But I think we're still, for disability, it's like we're still we're still too far back in the process. Like, we're still kind of living, even though we're modernised, we're almost living in this dark age still with it.
Aye, convert. Aye.
But just before I end up forgetting this, right? My point is,
you love to jump in.
No. I want you to jump in, but I end up forgetting what I'm trying to say.
Go, mate, go.
My point is that the accessibility is the problem.
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing my life, right? I can do most things. I can work out. I can do all the stuff that I want to do for myself. But the issue comes when I'm going to go somewhere or do something, and I can't do it because there's a set of stairs and no lift, or something as simple as that.
Like a ramp or something. Like
and so we're saying it's all inclusive until you need to actually do something about it.
Aye.
And so it's not that, like, if you can't. Nobody with a disability can change whether they've got a disability or not.
Yeah.
But we can change what it means to have one.
And it almost shouldn't be like this is disabled access. There should just be access.
Exactly.
But everybody can just get it. Doesn't need, like you say, it doesn't need necessarily be badged as like something different for somebody with a disability. It should just be, there's a doorway and it has like a lift or it has a ramp or whatever. That's what you're kind of saying you're striving for, is it just like, it's just the norm.
Well, that's the thing, is you can't change having a bad hairline. I can't change being in a wheelchair. Do you know what I mean? It's not like,
it came for me, but you're right.
I'm just saying,
no, you're right.
Like the same. It's like
Friendly fire, by
you are who you are, and it's like, but I think the problem with people with any disability is you basically grow up to be told that the only way to be. Basically, my whole teenage life was basically being told that the only way you're going to have a normal life is if you learn how to walk somehow here. Like, you need to pull this at the bag, mate. How are you going to do
you've
this?
gone, fucking, I'm trying.
It's like, I tried everything, but it's like, you end up spending. That's why when I come on and do this and I talk about like mental health and stuff like that, I'm talking about it from my own perspective of being like, you grew up with this idea that you were just pure worthless. You couldn't do any of this stuff. You couldn't have pals and you couldn't go places. Because I've always been a pretty sociable person and confident person, but it was like society kind of sucked that out of me, and I had to kind of rebuild it.
Because it tells you need to act differently for society, when actually, see if we just change society to be all inclusive, then nobody has to change.
And what you're doing leads into that, and that's why, like, genuinely, what you're like, the way you are will have an effect. And it might not be an overnight effect, but the conversation comes first, and then I think it's very much a generational thing. You look at mental health, people, the conversation about mental health really started about a decade ago, and it's only in the last couple of years that workplaces are taking into, they're putting into effect. People talk about it, and that, I don't want to go down a conversation about mental health too much, but in the way it is in society. But even like, if you say something like, I don't know if you like, you see people on Twitter, if like, I don't know, Neil Lennon gets a job and then everyone's like, oh, fucking what I kill myself, right? And they make a joke. It's like,
Yes.
you can't say that.
Yeah.
You can't. You're still allowed to play the subject or to a degree. You can still.
There's got to be context.
There's got to be context, yes, but at the same, like kind of what you're saying about how you've got to remove the stigma, and it's not that's a serious subject. You're not allowed to touch it. You can still talk about it. You can still do what you want to do, but you've got to respect it. You've got to be understanding. And I think everything you're doing, and you're talking about like wheelchair football and the rest of it, and getting your cunt punched in by a former world champion as well for some reason. I don't know how much that's going to help you actually, but
I'm now on board with that, by the way. Because I want to be behind you.
Mate,
in
we
the
fight in
ring.
wheelchairs.
Each other.
Mate, I'd watch
You
it.
don't, you don't want this
I'd
heat.
watch it.
You don't want this heat.
I dare it. Can we fight on that card?
I'll referee it.
Can we do it? Do you want to fight?
I'll fight.
Do you want to fight in a wheelchair?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Wait, this is an exclusive here.
There we go. We're fighting. We're scrapping.
It's been signed, sealed, delivered.
I hope you know that 15 years ago I won a gold medal in Taekwondo.
Yeah, mate. You mention it every podcast.
It's like one of the, it's the equivalent of being like, if I would do a professional football if I hadn't hurt my knee. You know?
I know.
I'd have been a hair model if I hadn't. Aye.
Anyway,
I'd have been a runner.
no, but the point I'm making is, see what you're doing.
I like
that's-
it. I like how we've now conflated being in a wheelchair with being bald. that's the
And I'm
outcome
just
of
sitting over here with hair and
being short,
fucking legs and
being really short.
cushy, aye, fucking.
Aye,
Love it, I laugh at it.
We're looking at you with envy, man.
Aye, I walked here with playing with my hair. That was cool. something done that was, man. But no, I was making a serious point about how what you're doing is brilliant, and see doing all these things, it will make a change. And people, even the day, today is the first day I've ever had a joke with somebody in a wheelchair about being in a wheelchair, and some of the stuff I'm saying, people might be like, "Oh my god!"
Can't
but
say that.
in the context in the room, we're having a laugh. You're alright with it. You're actually more than alright with it. It's what you're doing to remove that stigma, and that's what it's about, because it's a subject that people don't want to get into because they don't want to offend or they don't know it, and they need to remove things. Like, I could probably sit and ask you a million questions about your disability because out of genuine intrigue, and people won't want to do that because they won't want to offend you.
Yeah.
But you've got
You
to
need to
ask.
do that.
You've
You
got
have
to
to.
ask.
We've been trying to find you for an hour.
Exactly. And I'm bulletproof, mate. Do you know what I
I've
mean?
now turned it off on a square go in a wheelchair to my co-host. So,
Mate, I've had every possible insult thrown at me in a serious way you could ever
what's
imagine.
your favourite? Have you ever been? Has anybody ever said anything to you that was meant for an insult, but you've genuinely found it funny?
Oh, that's a good. No, there was a guy. I swear.
Fuck off.
Right.
Sorry, just very quickly. Every single podcast we've ever done together, bar none, somebody has said to him, "That's a great question." Bar none.
Aye.
And his
That's
hands
what
on
happens
this.
when you
Mate.
grow up watching Parker in the
Well,
telly.
I'll say this. That was an absolute straight question, but I'll answer
Ah,
it.
you know what I mean?
But I know. I think when you,
Fuck Enzo, I'll punch fuck out you in a wheelchair, you dick.
I can do with the practice. Because I mean, if you can be the fuck out of me, he'll be the fuck out of me.
That's true, aye.
I'm not. My whole plan is just to kind of just dance about the ring, hopefully, and
Aye.
don't let him get near me. 'Cause
You've got the mobility in the wheelchair that he doesn't know.
Well, I try to say to Paul, I was like, maybe I could just make sure that we do it in a way that it's like a work. So
Aye.
I like let him fake knock me out, and he was like, "No, mate, if you do this, you're going to take punches.
Aye.
He's going to real life punch you." And I was like, when he said that to me, I started realizing,
You're going to get punched in the face. Aye.
like, I've never taken a punch for like a non-boxer, never mind an
Let
actual
alone a
boxer.
boxer.
And you start going, what am I doing here? I'm pure being that guy on Twitter that's been like, you don't know my mentality, bro. I know what it is.
Aye.
First time I was ever punched in my life, right? I was 12, no, 11. I lived in Dublin. I just moved to Dublin. I was in school, obviously a Catholic school, but because I was from Glasgow, they all just called me a prod, right? So, there's the prod, right? Whatever. My first day, because, he's a prod and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm no, but still. And we were picking teams at lunch. My first lunchtime, they were all picking teams, right? And because I was the new guy, nobody knew if I was good or shite at football, right? I'm quality. And
Did you look at the camera for that?
I look at the camera for everything. And Paul's getting horny over there. I keep looking at him. But aye, so they're picking teams, but there's this wee guy who was boxing, and I know it was only 11, but he was like, I think it was like, he was competing
See,
under,
now you could let her fuck it.
but he's been competing since he was like a wee guy, right? He was a wee guy, still is. I was actually an adult at the time, he still battered me, but basically they were picking teams and they picked me over him because he had a bad temper and they wanted to just piss him off.
Aye.
So as soon as they said, my name, he literally just, we were standing side by side against a wall, stood in front of me and just smacked me in my nose, and I literally, all I seen was him stand in front of me. I didn't even see his hand move to my face. The next thing you know, it was just white. It was like, I was like, what the fuck was that? And my nose was gone, mate, and I was pure greeting. I was like, what just happened to my face? And see, from that point on, I was like, see people that train, like,
Aye.
It's your origin story.
that's why I'm going to be fighting Floyd Mayweather on
September 11, 2021. Cobra
You're
Kai.
lucky in a wheelchair, because if I had a leg kick, I'd kick fuck at you. Anyway.
No, well, I don't have a very good leg kick, but we'll see. Mate, I mean,
See, to be fair, mate, you'd be quality in the UFC, because all you'd need to do is roll over some cunt, just fucking put your wheelchair on them and just park, clap your wheel and just punch them.
you know, I could probably still beat Ben Askren, to be fair.
I'd love to see him try and shoot a double leg on you, man.
Well, I just, well, I think he's pretty much done.
Are we just going to call out every fighter in the world here?
Yeah.
And then
Tyson Fury,
make leg jokes.
Who are you calling out?
You?
Apart from me. If you had to pick one person to fight for $1 million
Fight
quid.
Sean McDonald. That's what you should do. Fight Sean McDonald. That's
He's
what
too
you do.
pretty to fight.
Exactly, that's why you should fight me to give him some bruises.
Is that an insult? You saying he can't fight 'cause he's pretty?
No, I
Exactly.
wouldn't want to punch him.
See, if you had to fight Sean McDonald, Paul Dock, or Chris McQueer, who are you fighting?
Chris McQueer.
Chris McQueer would have a banging story about that. He would write a short story about it.
I know, but
afterwards. He'd write a novel about it.
He also
See,
looks like a serial killer, so he's probably the easiest to actually try and
looks like
work
serial
up to punch.
I said
Sorry,
Chris McQueer, right, because I was thinking off the top of my head, when I look at it, he'd probably be the least likely to want to fit you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But and I think Paul Dock's probably got something mental about him. Like,
Have you seen
Mate,
his
he's got
videos?
nunchucks in his gaff.
Aye,
Who
so
the fuck has
I wouldn't want
nunchucks?
to fight him, but Chris McQueer, I would like to fight him just to hear him talk.
Paul Dock just cuts about like Scotstoun with nunchucks. Like, mate, what is wrong with you?
aye, exactly. Stephen, you were actual to go back to what you were saying. Like, have you ever had somebody say something that was
Stop
meant as
banging
an
insult.
insult, but it was like.
That question asked half an hour ago.
Aye, mate, because I was just thinking about there was one thing that really popped into my head, and it was he said there was two things. One guy said, "You seem like too normal to be in a wheelchair," and I was like,
I hate that.
and I was like,
I hate that, man.
Cheers. I don't know what to say to that. But the second thing, the funnier thing was, I swear to God, this is real, right?
Aye.
I was on a bus one time years ago. I can't even remember where I was going or why I was on a bus because I
And
don't.
it was Enzo that said this, right?
Up the top deck.
I don't know. I was,
This is what you've caused.
I would need to crawl the stairs to get out top deck, man.
Clip that bit and we'll just put that out there. Like, listen, this is why I've had to move on for the
Aye.
podcast. Fitzy's
Look, do you know what I'm going to do? Like, we'll cut this bit and I'll just start greeting in 5 minutes. And,
As soon as we leave, I could probably punch him in the face and just be sitting greeting.
it's like, I went, had Fitzy Beans to the podcast and they spent an hour slagging me off for being on a wheelchair. But there was a guy on the bus, right? I swear to God, he didn't say anything to me other than he came up to me and he went, thank you so much for your service, mate. And give me a $5 and walked off the bus. And I thought, what?
He gave you a $5?
Mate, I swear to God,
Did he think you were a vet?
he thought he genuinely, I don't know, that was all he said. He didn't do so.
How old were you?
Mate, I must have been like, this was a few years ago, but
Aye.
I've always looked a bit over the hill, to be honest. So like, when I was
The beard, mate.
when I was 16, I looked about 30. So it was like, but I was the guy. I couldn't believe it. He just went, "Thank you for
Yeah,
your
a fiver?
service, mate," and give me a $5, as if. Like, I don't know. He must have. By the way, he must have been on something or something.
Right.
But I think he just thought that I'd come back for fucking the war or something
Iraq
like
or
that. And
something?
it was the weirdest thing ever, mate. And I spent like 20 minutes being perplexed as to what happened.
And then you're like, yeah, it's free $5.
Aye, exactly. But like,
What did you do with a $5?
I got a Greg's, mate.
Yes.
Hold on. So you're telling me that if I kneecap myself and get in a wheelchair, I
You
could
get
get
free
paid for
Greggs?
it? I'm not going to Greg's. I don't like Greg's.
But you need to look like an army vet.
Aye, true.
Well, see, the thing is, right. See, like you're saying, if you get kneecap, but the thing is, right.
I'm
Is,
obviously joking at that.
aye, but see if you see
Am I?
No.
See if you're in a wheelchair, right? The way I look at it is you need to be, for it to work, you need to be top tier handsome, man, right? So I don't think it would work for you, mate.
not
It would
handsome
work for
enough,
me,
mate.
mate.
Aye,
It
yeah.
works for, but
He says hanging out his ass.
no, but that was me trying to slag you off, didn't
I'm-
it? But I backed off because it
Sorry, mate,
wasn't
it's
that funny. Mate.
No, sorry, go for it.
Um,
If we're slagging you for being in a wheelchair and we're slagging him for being bald, and
Aye.
the thing you've got to say to me is you're no handsome,
Aye.
I'll take
see,
it.
to be fair, and I'm saying that, but see, to be fair, once you get, you've got a haircut and you're trim, mate, you look top notch. But
Cheers,
but,
mate.
but
But you look like a bag of assholes today.
I can't,
Exactly.
I can't tell if you're flirting with me or not.
mate, I've thought every cunt.
Will I just go?
I've been grafting Paul for the past year. So, but I know that was probably the craziest thing that's happened. Like, I couldn't believe he actually said that to me. And then I went to
Greg's.
I told this story before, but like, see, you get in nightclubs, what I used to do is actually just crawl up the stairs. I used to crawl up, like, I crawled up. I remember crawling up like 2 flights of stairs one time to get into this club.
I'm trying to work if there's a punch thing coming here, or have you been serious?
Mate, this is real.
That's dedication to the sesh.
But I also used to play in goals on my knees and play 5 sides.
Aye.
But my knees are ruined, mate. Like, my knees are so
If you're
fucked.
crawling up dancing stairs.
But like,
I can't believe a guy in a wheelchair's got a "my knees are doing for football" story. That's incredible. Every guy just says the same story, don't they? My knees are good for football, so yours suck. Like, quality.
I was just trying, because the sport I play now, wheelchair football, didn't exist back then. So so I was just trying to figure out a way of playing, because as you know, like that was the only way to really be part in, was you had to figure out a way to play football. And I was like,
100%.
I can be a goalie, and my brother was a really good goalie, my dad was a good goalie, and I was like, I can do this.
Aye.
And it was always pure satisfying, because everybody would expect you not to be able to save anything.
Aye.
And then I was when I got good at it, they were like, there was a couple of guys that were like, you're actually really fucking good at this, man. And then I got to a point where I was like, man, I love doing this, but man, there's no longevity in this. I can't keep doing this. It's my
it's not
knees are
going
going
to
to fall back. But we're talking about a bit of football, right? Because I feel like this has been just scattered a bit.
Welcome to Fitz Bean Happnin.
But this is the crossover everybody's been waiting for, man. But
all we've done so far is offer fight suit and wheelchairs.
I know it.
I'm getting too comfortable making wheelchair jokes. I'm actually going to leave here.
You're going to say it to the wrong person.
I'm going to end up getting absolutely battered, man.
Aye. 100%.
That's what it's all about, because like, see what you're saying, right?
That's what it's all about.
It's all about ability, right?
That's
what it's all about.
There we go.
It's all about making wheelchair jokes. This is what it's all about. No, but because mate, that's the thing, right? Is we just want to have a really good time.
Hey, just got to roll with it.
Oh my God, man!
You see me cutting up Circle Street doing wheelies. That's how you do it. But like, it's all. I think the biggest.
Have you ever crashed?
Aye.
Like pure, like gone down a hill, lose control and that?
Do you mean like 60 million in a dual carriageway?
Aye.
There was one time when you come off pavements, right?
Why am I laughing at you saying you've crashed your wheelchair? I'm actually such a sick bastard.
But you come off the pavement, you need to come off at a certain angle, otherwise the chair gets fucked, right? So
It's like one first and then another one.
Aye. So one time I mistimed it, and I went off I went off a bit that wasn't flat, and the chair just tipped over, and I went fucking flying out the chair, and I managed to catch myself.
Both your Highland I'm like, that's such a sin. You're just shaking back there.
You've had this.
It's because I've seen it almost happen.
You've experienced this for the last hour, right? He's had this for the past year.
Right, fair enough.
Me just talking, so he's like, this is so normalised to him now.
Aye.
It's like, but
you falling out your chair.
To
Exactly.
be fair, there's been quite a lot of points where I've been looking at you tell something that's like quite actually like a sad story,
poignant.
and I just see him pure shaking in the background, howling at you. You're like, I've been in a wheelchair my whole life, and he's pure. Oh, get it in you.
No, but I swear to God, the funniest thing about this was that this street was dead. There was nobody in this street. No one was in the street. It was just me. And when I fell out this chair, like I knew that I could get back up in it and get in the chair fine. It was alright. But like as soon as I felt the chair, it was like a sea of 20 people just appeared.
Really, aye?
Being like, do you need help with that? Oh my God, as if a bomb had just went off or something. And it was the weirdest thing, like how nobody was in the street, and as soon as I fell out, but people just started grabbing you, and I had to be pure like pushing people out.
I'm
like,
alright.
Don't do that. But
it's funny, like nobody cares about the wheelchair until you've fallen out the wheelchair.
Aye,
like
exactly.
nobody cares like for ramps or like sorting out their shops and that sort of stuff. But as soon as you fall, you're like, oh look me, I helped a boy in a wheelchair.
Exactly.
Well, that's doing it all the time.
Did they give you a fiver to get a Greg's butt?
No.
Thumbs at high fives.
It's frustrating because people they assume that you can't do it, and it's mad. How
What's the one thing that you'd want to change if, like, in terms of, from your opinion, being in a wheelchair? What is it? What's the one thing that pisses you off the most? Is it that where people think they need to act differently around you?
Great question.
Aye.
Mate, I'm a great question asker.
That is a question. Are we like and
Question asker.
We should talk more about this on the Fitzy Beans podcast.
I will do it in a second.
But no, the
Just come down here and we'll sit there.
Stop sides.
No, but I think the most annoying thing sometimes is when you're out and you need to go for a piss, and the disabled toilet's pure just not up to, like, especially because everyone knows that the disabled toilet in a night out is a gear toilet. So,
Aye.
so you go to the toilet and there's about 10 cunts waiting in a queue in wheelchairs, and you're like, mate, I really need to piss. I don't know what's going on.
I really need it.
Aye, so sometimes like when I was pissed back in the day, like I wish it was easier just to go for a piss.
Aye.
But see, to be honest, the biggest thing is probably just the way people pure think they put you in this box.
Aye.
So like no matter how, especially like I'd say like see talking to lassies and stuff, I think one of the biggest things is you could be the best looking cunt in the world and have the best fat in the world, right? But people just think that like they put you in this box and they go the assumption that you can't do shit. Like when I'm on Tinder, most of the time it's like, does your dick work, mate? Like I get that all the time, and I'm like, if it didn't work, I wouldn't be on Tinder. What the
But
fuck?
also, you wouldn't ask that to anybody else.
Exactly.
You wouldn't be like,
To be fair, I get that quite a lot on my Tinder, so
that's after the fact.
I just respond to it and be like that. That's after the, I'm just like, come and find out, mate. That's what you should do.
I'm never watching this back. By the way, some of the shit I've said today,
It's been fucking wild, flagrant, mate.
You're a bad influence,
but
mate.
is it not the case that like people are essentially you're either disabled or not disabled? Whereas there's spectrum's not a word, but there's no measurement. There's no. It's like that's it. You're disabled. Therefore, that's you. And then that's listen. I'm saying this like sitting here, so I don't want to speak for you or for anyone else. But that's always been a frustration for conversations I'll have with people. They're like, well, they're disabled. Like, but you know, you'll still play football and go shag the birds. It's like it's not as if like you're disabled. That's it. Just stick.
Because I think they think that you're like you can't get out of the chair. Right? It's pure. And the thing is as well is like there's only so much that you can like take it at one point where you're like, but I think it was the way that I was looking at it was the issue. Like we're talking about how you deal with these kind of things, and you realise that everybody has something to deal with. Like there's no cunt that's going through life feeling like, that was pretty easy, man. I enjoyed all that.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? We all go through these things, and it's like why is disability is such a pure unnormalised thing. It's such
when it's just it's the same as everything. It was a thing I heard on a podcast, and I actually have a suggestion for you after this. So I heard the podcast, and it's like if you can't change your situation, no, this is a nice one. If you can't change your if you can't change your situation, change your perception.
Exactly.
So if you can't change it, you need to kind of do it. What I was going to say was for your Tinder. See when you smash Enzo Maccarinelli, put that in your profile. I smashed Enzo Maccarinelli, and then they'll be like,
you should just put in your bio, my dick works, by the way.
No,
I was laughing because when you said I've got a suggestion, I thought it was just going to be try walking.
Try walking.
I honestly thought you were going to make a shite joke like that, and that's how I was away.
That would have been really funny to be fair.
that's the end of the podcast, we're done. This is cancelled.
I'm fine with that.
There's about 10 things that I was going to talk about here that we've not even touched on. You know, but I think it's good that you're a pure card maker. I'm pure hanging at my arse.
You've done well, mate, to be fair. You've done well.
See, when I came in, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go today.
We're off for caffeine, mate. Seen about an hour, we'll all crash.
I know, I'm going to bed after this, man.
I think I've crashed already.
I know that I mentioned Tinder, by the way, but I just want to mention the fact that I'm not actually actively on that. Like, I've got it. But I'm not actually.
Very good.
I'm not.
I'm backtracking.
I don't. Because see the
Can
thing
you hear the reverse lights going?
He's going to tweet about this episode going, not once did I say that they can make jokes about my disability.
But that is the exact tweet I'll be putting out. But see, I want to talk about football a bit because I feel like when I mentioned to you that I'm the player of sport wheelchair football, right? So we're obviously Scotland in the Euros, and I was talking when I talk to people about this, I'm always like to them, what we don't really get any kind of coverage. I think that is one of the biggest things. You just were talking about what's one of the main issues. One of the main issues is that you don't actually get to see anyone with a disability doing anything. So like I think you come to the stigma by even just us having a conversation, right? I think that people see it as like, there's also an element of people that go, well, if they're pals with somebody in a wheelchair, they use it as like a fucking, like, I'm a nice person, like, Keen's a pal, and I've had people like that be like,
really,
I've had people like that have been like, yeah, I'm pals with a guy in a wheelchair, and I help him with stuff, and And I've said to them, I've been like, don't say that about me.
Aye.
If that's the reason why you're my pal, we're not friends. You know what I mean?
See the way that
To be fair, I was going to put my Tinder bio as I've got a pal in a wheelchair.
I don't do that, but it's like it's no. I
his
feel
dick
like
works.
I feel like it's no other people's story to tell, and it's no other people's experience
Aye.
to yours. So like, so see if we say for this podcast, like, so you're thinking it's fun. It normalises it if we make jokes and we have a back and forth, but that's your experience, that's your story to tell. It's when other people use it. I know you were saying it's a joke, but I hate all that. Like,
Aye.
my pals in a
I've got
wheelchair.
cerebral palsy, by the way. I feel like people are going to be like, what? You're going to actually tell us the real reason to the chair because you've joked about it faster.
Aye.
It's cerebral palsy I've got, but
Aye.
I can't. I'm tempted to say it to people sometimes because I think when people imagine cerebral palsy, they imagine like
End of life, basically.
Different stages on
the
it.
severe sort of version of it, where there's a lot of people that can't really talk. And by the way, people that are like that are still. One thing I've realised is actually knowing people with like more severe disabilities, they're still the same. They're like, as in you can still have a conversation with them.
Cognitive,
and it's just a case of we're very sort of one dimensional with how we communicate.
Yeah.
And it's like, see, actually, if we were able to put like have disabilities be seen on TV, like think about this, right? Think about all the roles you've seen for disability on TV and how there's nobody really. You never see anybody in a wheelchair or anybody with any disability on TV doing sports or doing. And also, when you think about it, that's like a huge market of things. Like people talk about how the passion of sport is not in the animal. Like you look at the English Premier League, mate, it's dead. I don't care what anyone says. You can put as much money as you want.
Yep.
It's the most boring thing to watch ever, man. Because nobody cares. It's just a league of billionaires. That's what it
It's
is.
all money.
So, but there's such a pure element of like passion of people that want to do this about sport and how competitive it is. It's like, why is that not even been remotely considered to be showcased on your Sky Sports or your BTs like that? And because the Paralympics show that there's money in it.
Oh, aye.
So what I'm
Was it 2016 or 18? That was massive.
and they get just as much, if not more, views than the actual Olympics. So it's like that. We know that there's money in it. We know that there's a market there, and it's my point is basically we're living in an era where it's still being suppressed, but it's been the boxes have been ticked enough to say, but it's not discrimination, but it's kind of still discrimination. You know what I mean?
Not that it's the same, but if you look at women's football, like Juventus, I think have just went full time with a women's team and are making a mint off it. They're selling out stadiums for women's games out in Italy, which even a year ago would have been like no chance, absolutely no chance. I ran a Sunday team for 7 years. Glasgow City have just won 13 titles in a row.
Never brought that up.
I met Scott Brown once in a Magners competition. What else? I was on Glasgow Live once, right? Brilliant, we're done. See, when I'd turn up to play at like Petershill for like a Sunday league game, Glasgow City would be playing in the pitch before and there'd be like 10 people there.
Aye.
Women's football is growing arms and legs and it's still not
I
got
could
the
do growing some
recognition.
legs, man. That'd be good.
I'm so glad you took that. I'm so glad you
I
took
could
that.
tell you what.
It was just hanging there.
But aye, it's getting bigger and it's still not where it should be. But I think what you're saying about like wheelchair football and just in general, I think like removing that stigma, and that's what you're obviously doing and helping to do. And I think that's like it will get to a point, but it's just a time game, innit?
Like you guys said earlier, right? Is you need to get somebody that, like you need to get the ball rolling with it, and I'm just trying to get the ball rolling with it and saying, look, like I'm at the beginning stage of this and saying we need to get a Celtic wheelchair football team, Rangers football team, and all these teams involved in saying this is here, and I think one of the biggest things about it is as a group, as like a whole, with all these different disabilities, is it's very easy to divide us all because we all get different disabilities. Yeah. So when you look at like how women's football was fought by women, right, and that was how because they spent the time, and you know the quality of it has gotten better because more money's been put into it and more coverage has been put into it. And I'm saying that like I think that's the problem is there's a lot of, instead of being able to fight for it ourselves, we're almost pitted against each other.
Right.
Because there's different categories, isn't the word? That's terrible.
There's
but
so
like,
much different variety of it. There's just
like sorry for cutting out. Like, so my best mate's got cerebral palsy, but he has.
That's good to know I'm your best mate, mate.
But is that what your pals are, mate?
That's it, mate. No. So my best mate does, but he has a different way of life. You, so like you're saying, you both won't be campaigning for wheelchair football.
Aye.
And it's like, and then there might be a different reason why somebody's in a wheelchair, so they
Yeah.
might not be doing it for cerebral
Exactly.
palsy. So there's no one group. Like, whereas with women, there's like, it's women are campaigning for women's football.
That's it. I've watched wheelchair basketball before, but see wheelchair. I'm not even trying to make a joke. How do you play wheelchair football? Because some people will
flicks.
still have.
Some
people will
Leg-
have
leg
mobility, but some won't.
What's the best? Right. Have you still got? We put up a clip of it, right?
Is it you? Is that a clip of you?
I think so, probably.
Are you doing keeping ups?
It'll be that
Maradona
same-
7? It's just a Maradona 3.
But while he's pulling that up, I'll explain what it is, right?
I'm happy with that. That was
Yeah,
good,
it's
wasn't it?
alright,
Quick maths, by the way. I was like 1, 2, 3. Aye.
Right, so it's fucking what's the rules of this sport, right? So
I need
it's,
put down after this,
You
man.
do.
it's 4 aside, right? So
Right.
it's 4 aside because you can't have all sorts of wheelchairs in the pitch at one time.
Yeah.
And the way that it gets done is that you have like a bumper thing
Mm-hmm.
in front of your chair, and the chairs are not these chairs like they're really like shit hot sports chairs and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and like the ball's slightly bigger and you smack it with the bumper like it, and see when you actually watch it in full flow, it's the same as any other type of football. Sorry, I thought I was going to fucking pass out there. But there's different rules to prevent it. There's
You want some
different.
water?
I'm alright, mate. There's different rules to prevent everybody from going into the same bit.
Aye.
Right.
So, for example, right, like, see if I've got the ball, right? Only one player. This is us. This is the Scotland team. So this is how it works.
Jabbing's not allowed.
That's a good ball, man. Actually,
That was a good ball, actually.
But see, this is how it works, right? And do you notice how only one like
he's
players?
defending.
So the reason why that is like if I've got the ball right and 2 players come to me,
Aye.
you're not allowed to do that. Everybody needs to stay 3 meters apart.
Right.
And the reason why everybody needs to stay 3 meters apart is so that it doesn't end up in one big skirmish, right? Because
Aye.
it's impossible for a wheelchair to get past 2 wheelchairs. That's not going to happen, right?
It's sort of unfair, essentially.
So basically, it's
That's some ball.
It's like good finish in it.
One in Scotland.
But so and check me out there with the armband, man. Be proud of that.
Big sexy.
Quality.
But no, so the rule basically is you need to stay 3 meters apart, and if the defending team come to you, 2 players come to you at the same time, it's what they call the 2v1, and you get a free kick.
Aye.
So they have rules like that, and they have a rule like you can't.
Well, it's not a free kick, is it? It's a free bump in it.
It's a free hit basically, right? It's so.
I'm too comfortable with
He's
this.
going to punch fuck at you, but
You want to start a beef? Let's start a beef.
I'm gonna get a DM off you tomorrow. It was like, by the way, Enzo's gonna box you now. Just no wheelchair. Just he's gonna box you.
We're going to end up putting you through this table at the end of this. Best
Devon, get the tables.
Exactly. 3D. We're 3D. you
Aye,
through the
right
table.
through a table.
I don't know what that means. I grew up.
Sad.
But so that's kind of what it is, and I'm right now. I'm really pushing. I'm trying to push Celtic to get a Celtic Power Football team to go because I was part of that kit launch thing, which is mental.
Aye.
How'd you end up involved in that?
Mate, well,
Obviously, because you're handsome, but apart from that,
I was doing the foundation thing, and then like when I was doing that for them, we took some pictures of me in the gym, and in one of the pictures I was wearing an Adidas shirt, and I didn't, it wasn't like I was planning that way; it just sort of happened that way. And they
Should have worn an Adidas shirt today, man.
but like then I got a phone call with this number. I was like, who's this? And it was like, it's the head of the Celtic marketing department. Or whatever. I seen you doing a challenge, and when I do something, well, we need more fans to be involved in this, and we were wondering if you want to come in. I was like, fucking of course. Do you know what I mean? Brilliant, and that's how it all started. But I'm trying to use that, and my argument is going to be, look, I'm part of the kit launch. We've done all this. Let's just announce there's going to be a Celtic Pouch football team here.
Aye.
Let's do it, because I've been the past couple of days I've been really thinking about this, and we're going way over time here, but the reason why it's such an important thing, right, is and this is going to get pure. I don't want to get too hard failure, but this is going to be the same thing I say to Tony Hamilton on Tuesday.
yeah.
Is that
Use it, mate. Use it as a mock interview.
exactly?
Right.
Because I'll tell you this right now. It feels like I feel like a bit like the weight of the world's on my shoulder, right? Because there's so many people. Like Steve and I, when you go to Celtic Park, every kid wants to dream of the idea, the possibility that they could play for Celtic one day. And there was never that. There was never. My football was my life, and there was never the possibility of me ever thinking I could do that.
Yeah.
And what it does is it's more than just a football team. It changes the whole conversation. It means that people in wheelchairs can be involved in the conversation, And even with just with our pals, maybe not for the start, but like in the next 5 years, if there's a Celtic Pubs football team, you're able, like, people can say, oh, but have you seen this guy in a wheelchair doing this?
Aye.
And they have something to aspire to. There's nothing like that in sports.
Yeah.
And Celtic have the ability to do that and change this whole thing.
Aye.
And so there's so many people in wheelchairs that are like, would want the opportunity to make that happen. And I feel like I've actually got the opportunity to make it happen.
Yeah.
Aye.
So I feel a lot of pressure in the sense of like, I need to fucking make this happen.
Aye.
But I'm also, I will pull on to every heartstring of Tony to try and get, like, mate, it's going to be good for you. It's going to be really good for you.
Aye.
And my whole point to them is, I was like to them, I'll do everything. You don't even need to do anything.
Aye.
Like, all you need to do is post about it and
Yep.
share it on social media, and I'll do everything like you need for it to happen.
Aye.
I'm not asking for your time or anything, because I feel like it would just it would change so much for people, and we all know, right, the number one thing that people care about in this country is football.
Yep.
Right? As mad as that sounds, it's just the truth. And if people start seeing more people in wheelchairs playing football, especially if it's for Celtic and Rangers,
Aye.
they start going, right, well, you know, if they can do this, we need to start looking at how to make this, because you start realising all these guys, all these people are normal. These
Aye.
are normal
Aye.
people. We're all just normal people sitting in chairs.
Aye.
If the two of us switch roles, right, and I'm sitting in one of them and you're sitting in the wheelchair, and somebody came in, nobody would know that I'm the one in the wheelchair.
Aye,
And-
exactly.
So it's about normalising the chair, and the best way to normalise it in the mainstream is through sport.
Aye.
And Celtic's argument has been in the past that they don't want to step on anyone's toes, and they don't want to come in and pure overtake the sport of culture football and stuff, because it's been about for about 10 years. But the thing is, right,
They should though.
my argument
definitely
is,
should.
well, here's the thing, right, it's all based on volunteers, right? So my argument is that this is going to, without mainstream coverage, without bigger teams getting involved, it's not going to be here for the next 20 years. And so I'm in a position now where kind of, when I came into it, I'd never met anybody in a wheelchair in my life. When I started playing it, I actually didn't want to be around people in wheelchairs, because I had a pure negative idea of, I hated being in a wheelchair. I
Right.
spent most of my life being young and being like wanting to actually focus on getting out of the chair. That was what, like, I wanted to detach myself from being in the chair in every way possible.
Aye.
So I didn't want to be associated with it. And then when I came into that, it took me a while to wrap my head around it. But you start realising that this is more people, like, this is to be here for the next wee guy.
Yeah.
It feels that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Aye, you want that next wee guy who's like 10, 12, 15 to aspire to be
Aye.
you or like you, or somebody that's
Exactly.
that's doing it.
I want to, and if somebody can go to Celtic Park and not know about power football and see somebody in a power shirt, like in the middle of Celtic Park at half time or something,
Aye.
and be like, what's that? What is that? Like, that's what it's all about. That's how you're going to, that's what, like, I'm starting to realise that I love doing this podcast, but that would be the biggest thing that I could do with this.
That's the dream.
Is just, and see, as I'm talking about it, it's been hard because it's a pure emotional thing for me, where I'm
Aye.
like, I need to fucking make this happen.
Aye.
Like,
Mate, when you're talking about the fact that, like, that dream, like, I don't even think I'm over the idea in my head that I might play for Celtic one day. I arranged a charity old firm like 2 or 3 years ago, and even playing in that, I had, like, I mean, we're all in like different Celtic tops and that, but like, and some of the guys in the Rangers team are just wearing a blue shirt, but like, even at that, I was like still quite happy about that, and I was, that's pretty decent. But see, when you're saying about how that dream, like, it doesn't exist, like, that would be huge. So hopefully they back it. They should. If they don't, we'll just start calling them out.
I will.
Aye,
Mate,
I'll smash Tony Hamilton.
that's my.
All right, mate.
Look,
You're a heavy aggressive today.
I'm going to do everything I can, right? But I'll make no bones about it, right? See if they turn their nose up at it. I will, you know, do everything I can to just put the public pressure on them.
Yeah, 100%.
Like,
Aye.
this, because there was a point when everybody was like, a women's team, nah, for that. But see, if you had a kit launch where the women's team, the Celtic men's team, and a person in a wheelchair, the stuff that changes in society is much more important than a football game. It's
Aye.
such a big.
And especially if you
Fine.
coupled it up with the wheelchair team.
Exactly.
So you're doing the launch of all your ranges of Celtic teams, or Rangers team, or Thistle, whoever it is.
Exactly, it just makes such a big difference.
And they'll probably put out a special bit of merchandise.
Smash me there.
Mate, let's go, mate.
They'll probably put a like a merchandise thing and charge like 60 quid for it and all.
That's see, even like, so see, like, so like, obviously it's quite an emotive issue, and it's something I'd never thought of. It's like, I can think, well, I want to be whatever player Henrik Larsson when I grow up, but you might
How's
not
that worked out for you?
Exactly, no dreads. But like, you can sit and go, well, who's my Henrik Larsson?
Aye,
Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
So then But see if you even take that away, because I think that's quite a good angle to go with Celtic. I like that. But see, even if you just separate that and go, there's such a marketing, like, so Celtic will sell anything and bung Celtic on it. See if you could start doing like wheelchair-based things, we'll make millions off it.
Exactly. So
Not that I'm saying fleece the community, but you know what I mean.
But that's the point. Is there's no negative to them doing this.
No.
Is what I'm trying to say.
No.
And I think they think that there's a negative to it, and I'm trying to say that you're not ruining the sport. You're saving the sport because it's not going to. See, when you really think about the actual the mainstream sport in our country, do you think would it actually be here still if Celtic and Rangers weren't in it? Because
not in the way it is.
exactly the only source of money or mainstream coverage is for Celtic and Rangers, and I know people don't want to hear that, but it's just the truth.
You're welcome, rest of Scotland.
Right, and I know that like there's clubs that are big in that, but I'm saying in terms of actual TV deals and coverage and like the main reason why this our sport, the actual mainstream sport's going to be here in 100 years from now is because of Celtic and Rangers. So like I'm looking at it, I'm going, this is now. I don't know how I've managed to end up in a position where I'm like, you start going,
canvassing Celtic.
how can this actually, I can actually make this happen.
Aye.
And it can change things for everybody. And when I started doing this, my main thing was knowing that it was going to take small steps and stuff, but just to try and make it easier for the next guy and the next person that has to go through all this stuff and be like, I want to be able to go to things and be able to socialise and be able to live like a normal life. I didn't really get to do that, but I'm saying like you start realising I'm actually now in a position where I can kind of make that happen.
Make it happen.
And you start being like, this is actually a bigger deal than I realised.
Imagine a wheelchair Old Firm.
Oh mate, I tell you this right now.
There'd be 2-on-1s in that game.
See if it happens and I play for Celtic. I'm pretty competitive as I know.
I picked up on that. You offered a square goal to Enzo Macaronelli.
But
that was a given.
Mate, if I get to play for Celtic and there's a Celtic Rangers team and all that, I'll go into overdrive, man. My big finny bastard thing will come at me. I'll just feel like I won't
Don't
hold
say
any.
that to Tony Hamilton.
Mate, and again, I'm sorry, Paul, we'll probably need to cut that out. But listen, I don't really know, because I think the reason why I mentioned that is I'm starting to realise that if this doesn't go the way I want it to, and they give me some sort of, they may have more reasons to not do it than I know, right? But the way I see it is, whatever their reasons to not do it, in my head, regardless of what it is, it's not good enough.
Do you know what I would say?
Know what I mean?
Like, so see when you do have your meeting, don't treat it as it's not the one shot. So see if they say, we don't want to do it for such and such, we don't want to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
See the people whose toes they don't want to step on, speak to them and say, I've spoke to Celtic. Celtic don't want to do it because they don't want to step on your toes. Do you get what I mean? So don't treat it as one shot and then that's it. It's gone forever.
I'm thinking 10 steps ahead of me. I've had like 3 meetings with it's the SPFA committee, the Scottish Publishing Football Association, and been like, and cleared it all up. So in terms of their end, they're totally green light, go for it, let's do it. And I've said to them, if I say to them or this and say I'll join them and make it, and they were like, we're totally on it, you have our total backing.
Aye.
Like this is what I'm saying. That committee, they're totally sound it because they know as well, like that everything. See, when it's all volunteer based, when people leave, it's hard to fill that hole because there's so much things you need to do to keep it running. So I'm realising that it's not going to be feasible to constantly replace these volunteers. No. We need to start getting some sort of, because even if it's still a volunteer based, Celtic and Rangers, different clubs, even like your Hibs and Hearts and stuff like that, they'll be able to have a bigger pool to get more people in.
Yes.
Right now the biggest club we've got is Clyde. Do you know what I mean? And Clyde, in the mainstream sense, is just not...
Fuck the Billy Wee. That comes to our Queen's Park, man. That's what I say.
We need to wrap up, but what did you... Before we wrap up, actually, what did you make of fucking the new Celtic manager?
And Postecoglou.
And the reason why I said new Celtic manager is because I've spent the last couple of days trying to figure out how to pronounce
Call
that.
him Big Ange.
I don't know how to do it, mate.
I am. If you asked me at the start of the window, do you want Ange Postecoglou? I'd have said who. In my green tinted naivety, I'm now all aboard the Postecoglou train. Postecoglou, I'm with him. But he's here now. We'll back him and see what happens.
I look at it as going to a restaurant I've never been to, but I've heard good things about it for people that I don't really know that well. I'm going to go to it and see until the food's shite. Fire in.
That's actually a really like great way of
not
putting
bad,
it. To be fair,
I'm-
I'm impressed with that.
I'm quality, mate. I'm destined for the big time.
Who tweeted that out?
It's me, I said it. Anybody that wants to hire me, I'm available for anything.
At FitzBeanPod@gmail.com.
No, at Fatboy Beans.
I feel like this was really funny, and then I made it pure serious. I made it pure like.
No, I like seeing this
Sorry, mate.
conversation.
Mate, I
'cause
think I
then-
could do another hour of wheelchair jokes. I think I've used up my quota, so.
No, mate, I've not even scratched the surface with them at wheelchair. I've got a full book of wheelchair jokes, mate. So you know what I mean. There's plenty that I could say, but this was actually really fun.
That's good fun.
I enjoyed it, mate. Love the podcast and what you're doing, mate. And
Appreciate that.
hopefully by the
Keep it
time
up.
people see this, there's a Celtic and Rangers wheelchair team.
Well, if there is, you better come and watch it and be cheating you on.
Smoke bombs, mate.
Can I get a game?
Mate, I see if there is a Celtic Rangers game, I want to get like the fucking Green Brigade there and shit.
No pyro, no party.
Mate, because
Exactly.
that's what we need. They're always like, we don't want things to get out of control. Well, yes, we do.
That's exactly what we want.
Don't say that when you're making say that.
I know. But anyway, guys, it was a pleasure. I'm never really sure about these things up at this point, but
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on. And
Cheers for having
I know
us,
it came together last minute, but I appreciate you coming in.
Class, mate.
It was a good laugh.
Really
Thank
enjoyed it, mate. Get you on us and we'll do it again.
Of course, mate, definitely.
Cheers.